to our rich cultural and ethnic diversity. For more than 400 years, the strength of this nation has lain in our capacity to absorb and transform a complex and diverse population into a homogeneous nation, where a single primary language provides a common basis for communication and mutual understanding. As our nation grew in numbers and expanded across the continent, opportunities flourished for anyone with ability and ambition. Underpinning this process of national expansion was our Constitution, crafted at the moment of our national independence by a group of talented and far-sighted leaders whose principles were firmly rooted in the ideals of democracy and individual freedom. 2 world wars in the first half of this century forced the United States to emerge from its primary preoccupation with internal expansion and economic growth to become a power with global influence and responsibilities. That is the position in which we find ourselves today, as the most powerful nation on earth, near the peak of our worldwide influence and authority. Indeed, with the dissolution of the Soviet Union and the discrediting of centrally planned economies, the opportunity for enlightened American leadership is perhaps even greater than it was in 1939 at the beginning of the Second World War, or in 1945 when the Cold War began. But this persistent window and this present window of opportunity, during which a truly peaceful and interdependent world order might be built, will not be here for too long. Already there are powerful forces at work that threaten to destroy all of our hopes and efforts to erect an enduring structure of global cooperation. I refer here to those ruthless advocates of ethnic nationalism who seek to break apart existing nations, as well as to militant fundamentalists who want to subordinate or even eliminate anyone who refuses to comply with their own rigid ideological beliefs. In contrast to those radical and divisive forces, our contemporary world has also seen the emergence of an array of scientific, technological, and economic phenomena that are linking nations more closely together, making enhanced cooperation not only possible, but absolutely imperative. Breakthroughs and advances in many fields such as genetics, molecular biology, computers, and telecommunications have given mankind the ability to revolutionize most aspects of our common life. Properly applied, these advances can be used to improve the human condition throughout the world, an objective to which I would believe that we all aspire. Ironically, however, the very innovations that are making possible dramatic improvements in human well-being are also creating new problems which raise the specter of an alarming and possibly catastrophic disaster to the biosphere we live in. And herein lies the dilemma that we all face. Let me illustrate. Improved public health has caused the world's infant mortality rate to decline by 60% over the last 40 years. In the same period, the world's average life expectancy has increased from 46 years in 1950s to 63 years today. This is a development which, as individuals, we can only applaud. However, the result of these positive measures is a world population that has risen during the same short period of time geometrically to almost 6 billion people and could easily exceed 8 billion by the year 2020. The negative impact of population growth on all of our planetary ecosystems is becoming appallingly evident.
And when he says this, is he implying that there are too many eaters in the world and that billions must die to bring the population under control by financing both sides of wars, by using HAARP to cause famine, and by spreading deadly diseases such as HIV, Ebola, and others?
In particular, the rapid growing exploitation of the world's supply of energy and water is a matter of deep concern, and the toxic byproducts of widespread industrialization have increased atmospheric pollution to dangerous levels. Unless nations will agree to work together to tackle these cross-border challenges posed by population growth, overconsumption of resources, and environmental degradation, the prospects for a decent life on our planet will be threatened. The recent UN meeting in Cairo is appropriately focused on one of these key issues, population growth. But the controversies which have erupted at the conference illustrate the problem of coming to grips with issues that are deeply divisive and which have a profound moral dimension. The United Nations can and should play an essential role in helping the world find a satisfactory way of stabilizing world population and stimulating economic development in a manner that is sensitive to religious and moral considerations. Economic growth is, of course, an inevitable corollary of a growing population and is essential to improved standards of living. But without careful coordination, unrestrained economic growth poses further threats to our environment. This was a major subject of discussion at the conference in Rio de Janeiro on the environment 2 years ago. The focus then was on sustainable growth and global development. It was pointed out at the conference that growth is most efficiently managed by the private sector, but regulation of the process by national governments and international bodies is also needed. And once again, the United Nations should certainly be among the catalysts and coordinators of this process. But in addition, given the importance of unencumbered international trade in stimulating and facilitating economic growth, some of the newer economic entities, such as the European Economic Community, NAFTA, APEC, and most importantly GATT, now known as the World Trade Organization, are probably best suited to play a major role in ensuring sustainable development. A common requirement for dealing with all of these challenges, technological, environmental, political, and economic, is leadership. Leadership coupled with mutual trust and understanding. There is no magic formula for finding and producing leadership. We've seen many fine examples of it in very small nations as well as among the great powers. I believe that most of the world is anxiously searching for strong and effective leadership, even a great moral vision for the future. And it looks to the United States to play that role. In my opinion, we have no choice but to become more intimately involved in the resolution of the complex problems that I have outlined. And it is clearly in our national interest for us to do so. I recognize that calling for expanded international involvement is not a particularly popular proposition in the United States today, at a moment when domestic concerns and isolationist leanings have a tendency to dominate the debate. But as we have seen in recent months in Bosnia and Rwanda, in North Korea and Somalia, in Haiti and Cuba, the fabric of social life can be torn very easily, and the effects inevitably spill across borders with harmful consequences to us all. I do not believe that the United States can afford to look the other way. Although we no longer teeter on the edge of nuclear abyss, the world is still a very dangerous place. And I fear that without stronger and more focused American leadership, it will become even more dangerous. A U.S. foreign policy that is marked by drift and ad hocery, having little clarity or vision, leaves our nation and the world vulnerable to geopolitical disaster. What is needed is a foreign policy that follows a coherent, strategically defined direction based on an understanding of history and national interest, but also well attuned to the needs of other nations. The world's complex problems cannot be taken up neatly in an orderly sequence. Instead, we must be prepared to deal with issues systematically and often